In life, each of us has to face our suffering. There are physical sufferings, but even more painful are the sufferings of the soul. Buddha taught that in mental suffering, there are four basic types of suffering that everyone can experience. These sufferings are not simply personal experiences, but also deeply reflect the nature of life. Do you know that the feelings and relationships that we cherish the most can be the source of suffering? Let's explore these four mental sufferings to better identify and understand ourselves. Each suffering contains valuable lessons, opening the path to peace of mind. So, are you ready to face these sufferings and seek light in the darkness? Let's continue this journey with me to find the truth from the sufferings of life. 1. The suffering of separation from love is one of the four mental sufferings taught by the Buddha, clearly showing the pain caused by love, but having to endure separation. This suffering is divided into two main forms: birth separation and death separation. Birth separation suffering. This is the suffering that arises when people who love each other have to be separated due to unwanted circumstances, such as war, natural disasters, or sudden accidents. In moments of happiness, a warm and cozy family is suddenly separated by unpredictable events. The feeling of heartache when having to leave the person you love is something that no one can avoid. For example, in the context of war, many young people had to leave their families, leaving their loved ones in their homeland, carrying with them an endless longing. This pain becomes even greater when knowing that the meeting may never return. Separation in such circumstances is not only a physical separation, but also a mental pain, making those left behind always wait and miss. The suffering of separation. When a person has gone forever, the suffering of separation is even more severe. Death is not only a physical separation, but also an irreparable loss. The survivors have to endure endless sadness and regret. They are not only in pain because of the loss, but also worry about the memories and feelings that will never be restored. Many people, when faced with the death of a loved one, fall into a state of despair. Some even lose interest in life, living in such mental pain that they forget to eat and sleep. This suffering is most evident in dire circumstances, when death is not only a part of life, but also an obsession. People with terminal illnesses, such as cancer or other serious illnesses, are faced with the harsh reality that every day is a painful day. They understand that life will not last forever, and that every breath could be their last. Both of these types of suffering show that love, when the loved one is no longer present, will turn into pain. The deeper the separation, the greater the suffering. While death is inevitable, the longing and sadness from a living love will forever cling to us, forming an inseparable part of our souls. This truth reminds us of the value of love and cherishing every moment together before having to face unwanted separations. 2. Hatred brings suffering. Hatred, the opposite of love, causes frustration and discomfort when we have to deal with people we dislike. This feeling is aggravated in family relationships, where discord often makes us feel bored and lonely. Suffering from hatred stems from anger. When having to work or live with people we dislike, the mind is always tense, causing difficulties in all activities. Anger not only causes suffering to others, but also harms one's own mental health. This negative emotion creates pressure, leading to actions of criticizing and even hurting others. Hatred is also the cause of conflict and war in society. When lacking love and understanding, people easily fall into a spiral of resentment. On the contrary, sincere love brings long-term compensation and helps us preserve precious relationships. However, when we are betrayed, we can easily feel regret and lead to hatred. To overcome this suffering, we need to develop compassion and understanding. Learning to accept and forgive will help us find peace of mind and build positive relationships. Only when we overcome hatred can we find true happiness in life. 3. Unfulfilled wishes. What we want but do not get is suffering. For example, if we take an exam and wish to pass, what if we fail? So miserable. Besides exams, there are many other things to wish for. For example, in business, in love, many people want to commit suicide because their wishes are not fulfilled. People suffer when they do not get what they want because of their excessive desire and craving for their own needs. For example, when they are hungry, they want to have enough food and clothing. When they are full, they want to be rich and noble and have servants. In addition, there are sufferings in life. In life, if things go as they wish, people are happy. If they do not, they are sad, and sadness means suffering. Each of us should look back at our lives and see if there are many things that go as they wish, or are they unhappy and miserable. People who are fortunate have fewer things that go as they wish, but everyone has things that go as they wish. If things do not go as they wish, are they suffering or happy? Of course they suffer. People suffer when they have to deal with things they do not like or hate. In life, the more people hope, the more disappointed they are. No matter what the issue, the number of people who are satisfied is very rare, and the number of people who do not go as they wish is countless. To achieve good results, people have to use countless energies, work hard, lose their appetite, and lose sleep, just hoping for success to come soon. Then, unfortunately, those wishes do not come true, and the suffering has no end. The fourth thing is the suffering of the five aggregates, that is, the suffering of the five aggregates flourishing. The five aggregates are form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. The form aggregate belongs to the body. The other four aggregates belong to the mind, or also known as the spiritual part. This covers the previous 7 sufferings. The body is born, old, sick, dead, hungry, thirsty, hot, cold, hard work, and hardship. The mind is sad, angry, love, hate, right and wrong, good and bad, right and wrong, 100 troubles. Suffering comes from the combination of these 5 aggregates. Because this combination is connected by causes and conditions that tend to be contrary, inside there is always contradiction and opposition. That is why it is suffering. Many young people hear that this body is suffering and do not believe it, because they think of a happy future. How can it be suffering? Some people say that only when they come into contact with things that are not to their liking will they suffer. If they come into contact with things that are to their liking, there is no suffering. The Buddha said that this body is the root of suffering. Why? Because this body is impermanent and changes. Everyone will grow old, get sick, and eventually die. When Buddhists are 30, few people remember that they will grow old and die, but they always remember when they were 18 or 20. The Buddha said that this body is impermanent and therefore suffering, but there is no lasting happiness. In fact, the Buddha taught that suffering does not mean that we should embrace that suffering for the rest of our lives. The Buddha taught that suffering is so that we can clearly understand the cause and find a way to transform suffering and pain into joy and happiness. Suffering does not come about for no reason. The truth of suffering is the root of afflictions, the cause that creates the result of suffering. The root of afflictions is also called the fundamental afflictions. There are 6 things: greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, and wrong views. These 6 things are the causes that create the result of suffering for humans. If anyone eliminates all 6 things, the result of suffering will end. Up to arrogance, that is, seeing oneself as superior and important. Because of seeing like that when we are about to die, we suffer a lot. Now, if we see ourselves as false and temporary, will we be arrogant to anyone? Will this body be miserable when it is about to perish? The reason we look down on others is because we see ourselves as too noble and important. Now, seeing ourselves as temporary and fake is not important. If we do not respect ourselves, we will not look down on others. Obviously, if we only have a little wisdom to see the truth, then the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death will gradually decrease. If we explain with wisdom this body is really not important at all, it is just a group of causes and conditions coming together, there is nothing else. Many people often beat their chests and call themselves I. But when asked what is I, they cannot answer correctly. If the flesh is I, then when it is sick and the doctor removes it, what becomes of that I? If the flesh has a foul-smelling wound, at that time do we cherish it or want to remove it? When it is still intact, we see it as precious. When it is damaged, we see it as worthless and throw it away without any regret. Obviously, the self is not what we are carrying here. We always see the ego as precious and real, so we suffer because of it. If we know that the ego is not real and not precious, we can let it go easily, without any suffering at all. If we are still arrogant about the body, we still suffer. Only when we are no longer arrogant will we stop suffering. These are the 5 aggregates of suffering. Because of excessive desire, people are like a bottomless well. When they have not yet achieved something, they want it at all costs, and when they have achieved it, they become bored and want to find something else. People who know how to control their greed will have a peaceful and leisurely life, not bound by life. The Sutra of 7 Ways to End Suffering. From the cause of ignorance and delusion, which humanity has created since time immemorial. If we do not have the good fortune to meet good teachers and good friends, our lives can fall into a dead end. That is a fact. Because of ignorance, attachment to the body-mind as the self. From there, wanting to possess it, we think and act wrongly, seeing ourselves, people, and all species and things, so we cling to them. Intention is the root of afflictions. It often thinks and ponders, so it is called thought. It often remembers about the past or present, so it is called notion. It often imagines and daydreams, so it is called I, and it has the ability to distinguish and understand, so it is called consciousness. Due to discrimination and wrong understanding, consciousness does not clearly see the true nature of dharmas as egoless, without a fixed subject, from which arises wrong views and knowledge that cling to self, others, and living beings. Clinging to self and then to mine, such as my wife, my children, my house, my property, my country. From the perspective of worldly people, there is nothing wrong with that. If people in this world did not cling to self and mine, how would they live? This body is born, grows old, gets sick, and dies, but how can we not want it to grow old, get sick, and die? We often contemplate the body like that and are always ready to help people when there is a chance. Thanks to that, thoughts of greed, anger, and ignorance gradually fall away over time until the mind no longer thinks badly but often does good deeds and does not cling to those good deeds. Then we will achieve the perfect bodhisattva practice. When we understand the four mental sufferings according to the Buddha's teachings, we not only recognize the pain in life, but also find peace in our souls. These sufferings are not the end, but the beginning of a journey to seek understanding and wisdom. Let these sufferings become a source of inspiration for you to find methods to help your soul be more peaceful. I look forward to receiving your opinions and views on this topic. Please leave a comment below. If you find this content useful, don't forget to follow the channel so you don't miss other interesting articles. See you in the next shares. Together we explore and grow more in life.